What's up, everyone? Welcome to the third episode of the Gametime Podcast. I'm your host, Loren, and in today's episode, I will be discussing how can you have a great start to your football career as a freshman. But before we get into it, if you like this podcast, please rate this podcast 5 stars on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music /Audible, Castbox, and Podcast Addict. And if you are watching this on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. And turn on notifications as well on all those platforms. And also follow all the social media platforms as well. On Instagram at Gametime Podcast 2023. And on Twitter /X at GameT Podcast. I repeat, for Instagram, Gametime 2023. And on Twitter /X, GameT Podcast. Now, let's get into it. Now, let's go with number 1, stay eligible. Now, I know I said this in my previous podcast episode, but I want to hammer this down. Staying eligible should be the number one thing in any freshman's mind when it comes to high school football. Let me tell you why. Now, number one thing I want to discuss at this moment is to stay eligible. Now, I know I said this in my last podcast, but I really want to hammer this down because staying eligible should be the number one thing a freshman should worry about at this given point in time. Student athletes in high school should only strive for A's, B's, and C's. D's are unacceptable, and it doesn't matter that your state allows D's for you to be eligible. Do not have a D, because it only shows 2 things to high school coaches and college coaches, is that A, you're not working hard enough in that class, or B, you are really struggling in that class and you don't get it. So my biggest recommendation to those freshmen is if you don't get something, ask the teacher. They will help you out. And if you're somebody that's okay with the C, D, or a F, it's going to be a rough time because you're not going to be on the field much because you're not putting in the effort in class. There's a reason why we're called student athletes. And remember, student first, athlete second. Now let's move on to number 2, building team chemistry. Now, I know I'm mainly talking about football at this given point in time, but this is in all sports, so it doesn't really matter. But there is no I in team. And building team culture is very important because it will make you and your teammates strive for a more common goal to win that state championship. Now, if you don't establish and build team chemistry, then a lot can go wrong within the team. And I'm sure somebody's thinking, well, what can go wrong if that does happen? A lot. You're going to have players who don't like coaches. You're going to have teammates, they don't like each other. And when it comes to game day, nobody's going to be organized because you guys don't like each other. Y'all can't trust each other on that field. And it's going to lead to losses. And those losses will pile up quickly. And I know you guys don't want to be that team that wants to get smacked on day in and day out. Now, one of the more important things about team chemistry that I do want to talk about, and this is a situation based, but it's just trash talking. And especially trash talking behind your teammates' back. Like, come on, bro. That ain't cool. That's your teammate. Why you over here trash talking? Now, I can understand if you and your teammate, y'all known each other for years and everything, and this is how y'all, compete against each other. Now, I understand if you and your teammates have known each other for a very long time, and this is how y'all compete against each other. But remember, not everybody feels the exact same way. Not everybody gets energized like that the exact same way. But at the very end of the day, there's nothing really wrong with competitive trash talking, but just don't intentionally make it personal. Because at that point in time, when you make it personal, because if you make it personal, things are going to get heated very quickly, and what happens next is going to be between you and your teammates. And the worst thing about it is, after whatever happens between you and your teammates happen, the coach is going to get involved. And man, that practice is screwed because y'all about to have some punishments waiting for you. So I would suggest that before you think about trash talking somebody, you better know them personally and see if they actually be okay with that kind of stuff, because not everybody's all right with it. And that could lead to a bunch of stuff that will be uncalled for. But just at the end of the day, don't be toxic to your teammates, man. It's not cool and it just kills the mood. Everybody's going to look at you differently, but just don't be that person at the end of the day. No one's going to like what you're doing if you over here just intentionally just doing that kind of stuff. I mean, I hope you guys get what I'm saying, but let's move on to number 3. And number 3 is mainly about putting in full effort and not being lazy. Now, we do play a sport that has film. So you and your teammates should go hard every single play, because you don't want to be that teammate or person who gets called out on film for being lazy. And I promise you, go out and play a game and you over here being lazy and it's caught on film, that next Monday, it's film study, I guarantee you that coach is going to call you out on film, and it's not going to be a good look for you. And if you don't believe me, try me and see what's going to happen. I'm telling you this because I know. But at the end of the day, film or not, play the game as hard as you can and don't be lazy. Give out full effort. And if your teammate isn't giving out full effort, go to them and tell them, do not be lazy. Put in that full effort and go hard. Because the moment you not putting in full effort is the moment that they will sense weakness and strike. So for 4 quarters, for 60 minutes, you better play till that whistle blow. If that whistle don't blow, you better keep hitting, keep blocking, and keep running. Because that whistle didn't blow yet, so the effort still has to be there. All right, so let's move on to number 5, stretching. Now, stretching is an important thing to do for any kind of athlete. It's an important routine that we all need to do. It doesn't matter if it's before practice, after practice, before a game, after a game, at home, it doesn't matter. Us athletes, we have to keep stretching because at any given moment, we get injured if we don't stretch. So it's important that we stretch so we can have the full range of motion, so we can compete at the highest level. Now on to number 6, practice the plays in your position. Now this is just simple enough. If you're a quarterback and you have your playbook, try to train with the receivers and just throw around a bit. Train your accuracy, train your arm strength, and look at the routes that they're running. If you're a running back, do running back drills to help you get better. And also look at the playbook to see which hole that you should be running through. If you're a receiver, easy enough. Look at the route tree. See what routes that you have to run. And also look at the playbook as well. Look at what routes that are required for each and every play that the coaches call. If you're an old lineman, focus on run blocking and pass blocking. Look on YouTube. See where hand placement drills are. And last but not least, look at your playbook. Make sure you know the calls so that when coach calls it, you guys will know and that you guys will be able to protect the quarterback. And if you guys are running the ball, that you can probably pancake somebody. Who knows? Now on the other side of the ball, defensive linemen, D tackles, interior, I will say the exact same thing for the O lineman goes for y'all too, but I would say instead of hand placement, I would say shredding blocks and learning how to pass rush, I would say. One more thing to remember as a D lineman, the lowest man wins. If you lower than that offensive tackle, lower than that offensive guard, lower than that center, if you're head up in that center, you're going to win. Now on to my edge rushers, my defensive ends, my outside linebackers. I would say the same thing goes for y'all for the D tackles as well, except for different standards. When it comes to defensive ends, you guys just need to work on pass rushing, block shredding, and I would say learning different stances, get offs. That's something that the D tackles need to work on as well. And learning how to wrap up and sack the quarterback. Now on to my linebackers. Here's something that my coaches have taught me when it came to being a linebacker, is that the linebackers play the run first, then play the pass second. So when you're a linebacker, your first step should always be step forward. Don't step back. Step forward. Eventually, when it comes down to passing, you will have to step back and learn how to play coverage. So that's one of the things that you guys do need to learn as well. But one of the bigger things, oh, and besides tackling, but one of the bigger things is if you are a linebacker, your first step should always be forward. Do not step back, step forward. Now on to the secondary, safeties, corners. Now, I ain't never really played safety and corner, but I would assume when it comes to you guys are always going to have to mirror the receiver wherever he goes. So I would say for you guys, ask somebody to be a receiver for you and just mirror everything that they do. You mirror everything that they do. If they cut back and do something, you cut back as well. If they go out and do a post, you do a post as well. If you do any route, mirror them. Just think about it as you guys are also the receivers as well. And if you are a safety, you guys don't have to cover receivers just as much, I'm guessing. But you guys, since you guys are all the way back there, but I'm guessing you guys will want to go up there and just walk up and just hit stick somebody just in case. So I will say for you guys, just learn how to track the football and yeah. Now, if you're on YouTube listening to this, please comment down below and tell me what things am I missing for a corner and safety, because I have never played the position, so I don't know what exactly they should be doing. I'm assuming what I'm saying was good, so yeah, just if you are on YouTube, just please let me know like what a corner and safety should be doing as a freshman. And if you are a kicker or a punter, just be a good kicker and being a good punter. But overall, for number 6, how I would end it off is listen to your coaches and practice the position that you play at home. Look up players in your position and look up different techniques for that position so you can have a bigger advantage on everybody else. Now let's move on to number 7, lifting weights. Now, of course, when you're in high school, you're going to have to start lifting weights anyway. Because if you want to play football for a very long time, you're going to have to get bigger, faster, and stronger. And the only way you can do that is by lifting weights. Now, 2 things I want you guys to remember before lifting weights is that just go ahead and stretch. Like, make sure you get all your muscles as loose as you can before you go out and lift weights, because it's going to be weird if you over here in bench press and you end up messing up your shoulder because you didn't stretch right. So, yeah, just go ahead and stretch before you lift weights. And also, do a progressive overload. So, what that would mean is each time you lift a certain amount of weight, every 2 weeks, go up probably 5 or 10 and see how you handle it. Now, the majority of lifting will be on the off season. Sometimes during the season you guys will be lifting, but majority of it will be on off season, and the coaches will let you know how they want you to work out and everything, and they will be able to tell you how much you should be able to go up or not. Now, let's move on to number 8. And number 8, to me, this is personal, but this is also, I really want to share this with everybody as well, is don't put too much pressure on yourself. You know, you're just a freshman at the end of the day, and it's only your first year, so you have plenty of time to become that star player that you always wanted to be. But if you as a freshman want to be that star player, I'm just going to tell you now, it's not easy, because for you to become that player, it takes a lot of hard work and discipline to become that player that you envision. Heck, maybe from time to time you may see a different guy who may be more talented than you, but rest assured, this is a quote that my coaches taught me in high school. Like I said in like the very first podcast episode, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. Just because that person is more talented than you doesn't mean that they're going to be better than you in the next upcoming years. Now let's move on to that and let's go to number 9. And number 9 is be coachable. Now, coaches are there to help you become the best football player that you can be. So the best thing to do is just listen and follow directions. And if you have any questions remember to ask them during practice and after practice. And also, one of the big things that you guys will need to learn as well is learn how to take criticism, because it's going to happen in football no matter how high the level that you're playing. It's going to be there. So just learn how to take it on the chin. Now on number 10, play multiple sports. Now, yes, football could be your number one sport that you want to play day in, day out, but also take opportunities to play other sports as well, like baseball, basketball, soccer. Take time to play those sports as well, because those sports can help you out in other areas just as well. Like, it's pretty weird if you think about it. If you're playing soccer, you're focusing on your footwork and everything. If you're playing basketball, you're focusing on your speed, going up and down field, learning how to not get gassed so quickly, and also how to high point any kind of ball. I mean, it's the same thing in baseball as well. And in track and field, I mean, essentially it's the same thing, but track and field will help you run faster and a lot of stuff. I guess it just all depends on what kind of sport that you play at the end of the day. But that is my biggest recommendation, is that don't just play football. Play other sports as well to help you get better. Now on to 11. Don't play around in practice. Football practice is crucial when it comes to freshman football players, because understanding the plays, knowing your assignments, and building team chemistry with other freshmen and upperclassmen can help the team in the long term. If you or other freshmen are messing around in practice, talking when the coaches are talking, and not putting in full effort, you are not serious about football, because you're not helping the team now or in the future if you're doing these things. And if the coaches see you doing these things, don't be surprised if you don't have any playing time, or worse, they kick you off the football team. Now, I'm not saying don't have fun in practice, but let's just say there's a time in a situation for you guys to do that. Just be smart, listen, understand what your coaches are saying, putting in full effort every play, knowing your assignments, and just play football. Now, last but not least, number 12, depending on the upperclassmen, don't trust all of them. Well, why shouldn't you put your trust in upperclassmen? Here's the reason. Not everyone should be trusted, depending on who they are as a person. Though most upperclassmen want you to be the best player that you can be after they leave, not all upperclassmen are the same. And they can potentially mess up your first year in high school. So before you trust any upperclassmen, know who they are as a person first before putting trust in them. And if you're an upperclassman and you're listening to this, don't set your lowerclassmen up for failure. It's not going to be a good look on you. And I promise you, they're not going to forget it. So just don't be that person. Help out your lowerclassmen. They're the future in your football program. Set them up so they can be great. And so they can do the same thing to younger generations for futures to come. Now, that is it for this podcast episode. If you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Castbox, and Podcast Addict, please like this podcast and rate it 5 stars if you liked it. Hit that follow button and turn on notifications. This podcast also has an Instagram and a Twitter/X. Please follow on Instagram at Gametime Podcast 2023. I repeat, at Gametime Podcast 2023. And for Twitter/X, that's still hard to say at this moment in time. It is Game T Podcast. I repeat, Game T Podcast. Now, if you're listening to this also on YouTube, if you do like this podcast as well, please hit that like button, subscribe button, and turn on notifications. And comment down below if I missed anything in this podcast. Thank you guys for listening to GTP, and I hope you guys have a good day. Peace.